G'day, Michael Guest. I've got my mate Wayne Gordon with me, and on this episode of Start Your Own Battle, we're going to see if we can't catch a few wily old Brim along the break wall. Brim, flathead's another one that we might try and tempt a little bit later on, but we'll start with the wily Brim if we can. We've got a couple of 10'6" Penn Prevail 2 rods, 5 to 9 kilo, unbelievably nice and sensitive in the tip, 10.5 foot long, which is fantastic for getting out past the rocks, isn't it?
Yep, you can just hold them out like this when you're fishing.
Yep.
Perfect.
So past that danger zone, because we don't want to get hung up. We don't want to get caught up in the rocks and snagged all the time. That's no fun for anybody. Some 15-pound mainline on a little 4,500 size Penn spinfisher reel there with that famous little drag section at the back where we can feed the bait out and then wind the handle and get back to our fighting drag. And then what we have done is we've lightened things up a little bit with some 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. So 15-pound main line, a double uni knot to a length of 10-pound fluorocarbon, because Brim, it's such good eyesight.
Very good eyesight, yep.
And they shy away, don't they?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So
it does help us that the water is a little bit off colour.
Yep.
And that helps us catch fish, I suppose.
Definitely, and sometimes you go right down to, I've been down to, much lighter line again, but 10 pounds a really good place to be, especially, in and around the oysters. You do need a little bit of help in that respect. We've got some Owner 1.0 bait holder hooks as well. That's about the right size of 1.0, which is good for a flathead as well. So as far as the rig goes, it doesn't get a lot simpler than this. So I'll just grab that hook. So just the hook with a tiny little P-sinker. I don't know if you can see that there, tiny little P-sinker down onto that 1.0 hook.
And I've gone slightly heavier with a slightly bigger hook.
A slightly bigger hook, which I find interesting.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit bigger bait. Just to see how we go.
Yeah, which can work sometimes, because there'll be smaller Brim there if you want to catch those slightly bigger ones.
And then if you put the bigger bait on, sometimes they will peck the bigger bait, the smaller ones, and the big one will sit back, and then you'll come in and just take it from under them.
I like the way this bloke's thinking. So, and as far as baits go, we've got a huge range here. So a feed of prawns, we'll throw some of those prawn shells in the water for burley, fantastic burley, as long as they're local prawns and they're not imported prawns. Just remember that, you should never use imported prawns either for bait or burley, absolutely not. And then we've got some pillies. Pillies are always available at the Servo, local tackle store. Brim love them, very oily. You can fill those up. Some actual green prawns there, which are good local green prawns that I've got here. I've got a few of those left. We've got a yellowtail there and a slimy mackerel, some bait. It's a couple of guys from up the road here had been out offshore fishing. They had a couple left over that had died in their bait tank, so don't throw those away. We can use those for bait and burley as well, and you can fill up those. Brim will eat just about anything. It's just a matter of having quite a good bait presentation, putting it in the right area.
That's right, yep.
It's just one of those green prawns that I had. I'll just get rid of the shell. Shell's going in the water for burley. As I already mentioned, make sure you can only put Australian seafood products back in the water as far as bait and burley goes. So I've only taken off half the shell, just to leave that a bit tougher up there, and I'm just going to run that 1.0 hook down through the meaty part of the prawn and sort of hide it. We've got great eyesight, but we don't want our bait to look like that. That's pretty poor. So what we're going to do is just create what we call a half hitch. So we're just turning a loop like so. Turn that loop in that 10-pound leader and then pop it around the tail. We do this with pilchards and all sorts of baits, and what we end up with is a really nice straight bait. And we're just going to let that waft down amongst the rocks, and I'll see if I can't find one of those big blue-nosed Brim hunting around there.
Oh yes, see, Guesty. Oh, I've got a nice little flatty here, mate.
Oh, wow.
You
should be able to just
lift him up.
Lift him up. Great stuff.
How's that?
Now, we were going to run through a flathead rig, and it actually wasn't this. Can you believe it? So that old saying, "Fish light, get the bite," is what it's all about.
That's right, mate.
So you could also use what we call a running sinker rig. So we could have a 60-centimetre length of trace, 10 or 15, or more 15-pound trace off the rock wall for flathead. I'll do a swivel and the sinker you want to use, and you can cast it out to that area where the rock wall finishes and it meets the sand, and you need to be out there. Otherwise, if you're going to weight your bait down, you get it in those rocks, you're going to get snagged.
Exactly right.
Every single time. But just wafting that prawn down.
And close to the bank, that's where he was sitting, probably 2 metres from the bank.
Yeah. And the big thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, and I see them when I go free diving along rock walls too, is that the flathead love structure. They're right in, and they get themselves all bent and twisted up in amongst the boulders and the rocks. And casting right out in the middle of sand, I know you go, I'm not going to get snagged, and that's right, but the fish are there. So, so lightly weighted presentations, even if you've got to walk along with your bait and then wind it back up and then go back up this way, and sure, there might be some other people fishing, but you've got a little area, cast your lightly weighted bait, let it waft down, walk along, and I guarantee you'll have more success. We've been fishing with the prawns so far. We might just try a slab of slimy mackerel. So take a fillet down there. So start at that head end, take that fillet right off, and fillet, and we'll use the carcass of this as burley. So we might as well take the other side off while we're going, and we'll create some baits. This is just an old cutting board that I take with me, which is ideal. You don't want to be running your knife up and down on the rocks because that's going to blunt it straight away. That can go in for burley. That I'll mash up for burley in a minute. I'll just sit that aside.
You don't mind if you could cut me a little piece there, mate?
Okay, I was busy here for a minute. That's all right, yeah. So what we'll do, Gordo wants a bit. So we'll just cut some nice long strips. So they've got a bit of a tail end. I don't mind them in a bit of a triangular shape. And very oily too, so we'll just cut a few baits there. And I reckon Gordo probably likes to look at that one there. It's a perfect size meal for a brim, that one.
Yep, I'll
and
put that on.
If we're going to use a pilchard, so I'll leave those baits there ready to go, pilchard. And we'll do the same thing with the yellowtail there. Maybe cut that pilly halfway through there like that. And then you could run that hook through that tougher head section, then out into that gut section there. Quite an oily bait as well for a brim, and that'll waft down.
There you go, there's that one there.
Yeah, that's perfectly rigged up.
Yep.
Presentation is a big part, especially fish like brim, because they're quite shallow in the water column. I think, you know, if you're lucky enough to go for a bit of a dive around a sheltered rock wall, somewhere that's safe to do it, a bit of a snorkel, you'll see they sit right up quite high in the water column. So they're high, they've got lots of light, they've got really good eyesight, they're great nighttime hunters as well. And we're fishing in the daylight at the moment. Once again, like all of these predators, the tide changes are the key.
Yes, yep, low light.
Low light conditions.
Yep.
Right, early in the morning, brim are really active. Late in the afternoon, they're super active as well. But you will catch them through the day on those tide changes. A little bit overcast today too, which helps a bit too with those eyesight predators.
Well, hopefully,
yeah,
I'm gonna go give it a go.
Do it.
Oh,
Got in there, Gordo.
big brim, mate.
Oh.
That is, he'll give you a hand, mate. You want me to lift him up there?
Yeah, I think we might be able to sneak him in. He looks well hooked. I'll sneak him over.
What pound line you got on there, just so I can lift him?
So that's 10 pound, bit of 10 pound leader, which is good. So I'll just try and keep it away from the rocks. Gordo's got it. Just a bit of quick comfort lift there, Gordo. Beautiful. Bring that up here and show them what a great big brim looks like. Look at that, that's a cracking big brim, and that's just one of those rockwall species. And if you notice, and I think the big issue that a lot of people have fishing rockwalls is they just fish too heavy.
That's right.
And it's what you see, what you're standing on here, disappears down, the brim hunt up and down that rock wall. So the idea is to fish as light as possible. So I've just got a tiny little piece sinker, just enough to get my bait down in and amongst where we are. We've got a little bit of burley happening with those prawn shells we've been throwing in, and it's brought this big blue nose fella in. We'll let him go in a minute. They're quite a slow growing fish, brim, so think about that if you're going to take some to eat. These bigger ones I certainly like to let go if I can, but he's a big old dark looking fish, that one.
Oh, flat out.
Go, mate.
Got him on here. Got him on here, Guesty.
There we go. On the net.
Mate, I might be able to lift him up. He's a nice fish.
Swing him up there. Another nice brim.
Nice brim.
They travel in huge schools, brim, so if you get one, there's very good chance there's a lot more there, and we've kept that burley going. That's the main thing. The tide's starting to pick up a little bit now. Light's starting to drop. That's a peak time to catch a few brim, isn't it?
Sure is.
So we've started our own battle. Now it's time to do yours. All right, bud, get him back in.
Off you go, buddy.